Hi, my name's Richard Jocelyn and I'm going to show you how to create a number of icons which can be used within Niagara N4. Now on the screen we have 4 icons, 3 on the left which are SVGs or Scalable Vector Graphics, and 1 on the right which is our conventional bitmap or rasterized image. Now a rasterized image contains a set of information, in this case 40 pixels wide by 40 pixels high. Now when we come to stretch or resize that image, those poor 40 pixels just get stretched and the definition of the image is lost because we're not increasing or changing the content of that image, we're just stretching the image to a larger size. So for use on anything other than its original size becomes impractical. Now an SVG graphic is based on an XML file or a text file, and it contains instructions on how the image is going to look. So it doesn't contain the information of 40 pixels by 40 pixels, it just contains a set of vector information. So when we come to stretch that to say 400 pixels wide, all the vectors change accordingly and all the information remains nice and crisp. So we can use a SVG graphic on multiple devices, and effectively an SVG graphic is resolution independent. So we can use it on a high definition screen like a Retina Apple device, or we can use it on a PX page in multiple sizes. Now I'm now going to go and show you how to create these images. Now we're going to create ourselves a number of icons, and to do that we're going to use a package called Affinity Designer. Very powerful drawing package which allows us to create SVGs or any other graphic objects that we need to create for our Niagara N4 projects. When the package opens up we have our familiar tools across the top, and down the side we have a toolbar with all the little tools that we need to use to create our graphics. The move tool and the node tool and the pen tool are probably the 3 tools that we use most of the time. Now to start we go up to File, New, and a dialog will open up in Web and it'll show you a number of predefined screens that we could create or as a starting place. The way we're going to make these icons, it doesn't really matter, so we're just going to use the UVGA size. We select that one and it'll give us the size of 1280 by 960, and we want to make sure that the transparent background has been selected. So we create that and gives us a page which would be ideally used for when we want to create a full page design or a mock-up of our page that we might want to get approved by our clients. To start with, we just come up to the artboard tool and we bring our artboard tool over the page and drag across the page with our mouse. If we hold down the shift key, the aspect ratio will be fixed and we get a perfect square. So I'm going to go the wrong size, so we've got about 80 pixels by 80 pixels. Release the mouse and we now have an artboard of 80 pixels wide. If we come down to the right hand side we can actually correct our size and we want 40 pixels by 40 pixels. So that's our size of our icon. We want to zoom in, so you can do this a couple of ways. You've got the view zoom and a number of options here, or if you've got a mouse with a center wheel you can hold the control key and zoom in that way. So we now can see the artboard at a nice workable size. If we go over to our layers palette, we're just going to rename this the artboard to fail. That's going to be the name of this icon. I want it lowercase. Fail. Okay, so that artboard is called fail. Now to start drawing we're going to come over here and select our rounded rectangle tool. We select that and over our artboard we drag the object to, and I know how this is going to finish off, so in this case we want it 38 by 38 pixels, and you'll see why in a minute. There we go, 38 by 38 pixels, and release. That's our basic shape. It's not quite centered, so we can come up to the top here and get our move tool and center that. Perfect. Now, as this is a failed icon, we're going to come up to the colors, and we see a selection of colors and a selection of drop down swatches that we could use. Now we're just going to leave it on default colors at the moment. The little icon at the top here with the donut and the circle shows or represents the fill color, and the donut represents the stroke color, which is sort of the outside edge. So the fill color on this particular case, we're going to go red. And to make this work, we're going to have a stroke color of gray. And as soon as we select that color, a stroke has been put on. You can now see that the stroke sits either side of the boundary line of our icon. Now we're going to just raise that using this dialog here to 2 pixels wide. So our stroke is now 2 pixels, and the icon is effectively 40 pixels wide and high. Now I find the radius of these curves a bit too much, so we can come up to the corner tool up here. It says 25% at the moment. I'm just going to drop that down to 9. So our icon now has nice rounded corners, but not too severe. Perfect. I like that. Now to give us our symbol, we can come over here to I wish you could actually use the rounded rectangle tool again. Select that, and we can drag into the middle of our icon. You can see the fill and the stroke has remained as it was before. So we can release that, get rid of the stroke using this little symbol here, and we're going to change the fill by clicking on it and go white. So there's our object. That looks a bit fat and chunky, so we're now going to change the height to 30 pixels, and we're going to have a width of about 5 pixels. That's better. And we're just going to use a move tool to come away from the object. So the curves on this are still a little bit rounded, and I'm going to just keep the dimensions the same, or the percentages the same, and drop that down to 9. So that looks good. We can center that up. You'll find that using the move tool you can get a good idea of where the center is. And if you come up to the top, your mouse will turn into a double-headed arrow over this point here, and we can drag that round to say I'm going to again select the wrong value. There's 52 there. Actually I want it minus 45, so that sits at the right angle, and just align that the way I want. Now if I expand the layers, you can see that you've got your background and your white part of the cross. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that, and using the keyboard I can go Control J, and that's now given me 2 of the same. I can select one of them, take the handle and drag that round to 45 degrees. That's 45.1, not quite right. So I can correct that down here. And there I have my failed icon. Now using my mouse wheel and the control key, I can zoom back out again and just align that over to the left hand side of the screen. Now by clicking on the fail, or the actual word fail, it will select the whole artboard, and holding down the Alt key I can now drag that and create myself a duplicate. So I've got a duplicate artboard, and I've now got 2 fails in my layers palette. This one I'm going to go stop. So I've now got a failed icon and a stop icon. So the only thing I need to do with this one is expand the artboard, go down to my background or my rounded red rectangle, and change the fill color. And I want this to be grey. That grey is the same as the stroke. So if I double click on the color circle, it comes up with my color chooser, and I can just drop the color of grey down just to be a sort of a silvery color. Or if I wanted, I could put into my hex value, and now I have my stop icon. With my move tool, I can come out and click on the word stop to select the whole object, hold down the Alt key and drag again to my right. I now have my third icon. Select that in my layers palette and change the name to OK. So this is my OK object. I can expand using this little arrowhead, select the background color, and now the fill is going to be green. Bit too bright. There's the green I want. Now if I come down to the top rounded rectangle here, and I'm going to zoom in using my mouse again, I can now drag that to say 10 pixels. Drag that over to my tick, and we're pretty close to where we want it. Now I'm just going to change this slightly, drag it over and alter that slightly. There we go, there's my three icons. Perfect. Now we're ready to export. We have a failed, a stop and an OK, and these are ready to go. Now in Affinity Designer, at the top we have these three little buttons. We're currently in Designer persona. You've got Pixel persona, which allows you to create rasterize or bitmap graphics, and you have the Export persona, and this is the one we want to click on next. Now this shows me a slightly different layout. The tools have changed slightly, and we now have this export option, layers and slices. Initially it will do the default of coming through as PNG, PNG and PNG, and the blue hazy area just represents the slice of the particular image that we're going to export. If we look at defaults, we can look at a number of presets, and we can go PNG, JPEG, GIF, TIFF, SVGs, PDFs, so we can export in any format that we want. Now the format that we want is SVG for export, but what we don't want is this little set view box. So what I'm going to do is uncheck set view box and go create preset and call it Tridium. So the next time I come along, I'll have a preset that I can use and not having to actually unset this view box value. So I'm going to go back to my file, select the top banner, go selection, preset, Tridium, and you'll see that it's gone file SVG. Look on the next one, preset, scroll down, Tridium, next one, select Tridium. So now I have my three icons which I can now export in the way I want to. Now I'm going to export these, so I click on slices and we have our three little objects here. On the right hand side you'll see that you've got click to export all formats for this item. This is what we want to click on to get export our SVGs. Now if we click on the triangle symbol here and expand that, you can see that there's our Tridium OK SVG, and we could add a different format for export here. So we could add an OK PNG or an OK JPEG, but we're not interested in doing it at the moment. We just want to export our OK SVG. So I click on the little pointer here, and it says where do you want to store it on your computer. Now the way I work is I've got a folder under my Niagara folder, and I've got Niagara graphics training, and I store all my images into a folder called assets. So I go save. Now I go again to my stop icon, click on the export and save my stop SVG in my assets folder, and my last one, fail SVG, save. So I now have the three icons on my local computer ready to bring into my station. Now we're ready to bring our icons that we've just created and bring them into the station ready to use on a PX page. Here's my station, my config, my files location, and if I open up my files, we can see that I've created a little graphics folder which I'm going to store all my objects in, and I have a PX folder with some pages that I've created in here. Now I've got a sampled icon PX page, which is a blank page ready to be used and icons to be brought onto it. So if we go up to our Niagara folder, which is under C, Niagara Graphics Training Assets, there are the three little icons that I created. So select those, copy, come down to my graphics folder within the station and go paste, and there they are ready to go. So now with my sample page open and in edit mode, I can drag my icons onto the page, and you may experience at some stage where the icon doesn't appear and you think, well, what's going on? It normally means that information is still held in the cache and it needs to be cleared out to accept the new image. So the way to do that is we use a command called Alt F12, and I've just created a page just to remind myself to show you. So when updating graphic images, press Alt F12 to clear the Niagara cache. I'll just demonstrate that. There's my console, and if I click on the page and go Alt F12, you can see that the console now has cleared the cache out. So I'll go to my sample page again, and if I drag my icon on now, we can see that the icon appears. So that command is really useful if you want to edit an image and then bring it back into the station with the same name. It won't necessarily update, or you'll won't be able to see it. If you just clear the cache, you should be able to bring in the image again without having to restart the whole platform. Now I've just dragged this icon on, and just to demonstrate what we need to do, if we just double click on it, you'll see that it's come on as a label, and if we just drag it, you'll see that it doesn't actually change size. The problem there is when you drag it on, it comes on as a label. What we need to do is go new picture, and we can actually take the image URL or ORD, copy, and image, paste. And you can see here that the layout that I've got here is just by default, where I've dragged it is 100 by 100. So 100 by 100 is the size of the image. The difference between the label and the picture is the picture has this thing called scale fit to ratio, and that's exactly what it does. The image will then size to that the box or the boundary box. If you put a PNG in this box and set fit to ratio, it'll do exactly the same, but as I demonstrated earlier, the blurring will occur because of the loss of quality. And I'm just going to duplicate this and change the image. Okay, and duplicate this one. And stop. And then we have our three icons, which we can use on any device and create any size that we want. Thanks for watching.